let's start with the new book because I was so excited. You reached out, ahead of it launching and said, hey, let's get together and have another conversation. And I couldn't book myself in your crazy schedule. So we finally have found a time where we can get together and have a conversation. But I think it's so timely, right? Thinking about the long game when so many people over the last 20 months have been heads down thinking about the short game today, tomorrow. So, I know this launched during this crazy time, but what have you found? What was the genesis of it? I guess let's start there. And then what have you found since, it's been on its, I think, third week birthday or something?
Yes, it is indeed a relatively new baby in the world. So I think one of the most important elements of the long game is it's not that short-term thinking is bad, right? I'm not here to like diss short-term thinking because during the pandemic, we needed it. We had to do short-term thinking. It's a good skill to have in a crisis, right? You have to pivot. You have to say, all right, what's coming at me? How do I deal with it? How do I adapt in the moment? That's great. The problem comes when we forget how to do anything else. Because fundamentally, short-term thinking is great in the short term, but if all you're doing is responding to stimuli, you are probably not going to be able to set a very effective proactive agenda. You're just kind of,
Yep.
dealing with stuff. You end up where you end up. Most of us, for whether we're talking about for our companies or for ourselves, for our lives, for our careers, we actually do have goals. We do have things we would like to accomplish. And it is very, very hard to do that in a systematic way in the absence of long-term thinking. So I think for me, part of the case that I want to make is that the last, 18 months was a time when we were over-indexing on short-term thinking. Now I think it's time to really tip the scales in the other direction. We need to over-index on long-term thinking so we can get back to it and setting our own agenda rather than letting COVID set it for us.